Yo, 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 what's up, my AP Gov squad? It's Mr. H, and we're back at it after a long weekend and a long week of congressional simulations and me being out of town hiking in Seattle, Washington. So let's get back at this. Locked on AP Gov, the Locked On Network. We're in episode 3 Congressional Behavior, Group Chats, Gridlock, and Gerrymandering. And this is our Unit 2, the most important unit of the AP Gov curriculum. It's the most questions. Most questions will come from Unit 2. But I've broken them down into mini units, 4 mini units, and this is mini unit 1, the legislative branch. And this is our last episode here, guys, of the congressional or legislative branch mini unit. So without further ado, let's dive in, lock in, and let's get it. Let's go. Learning objective. Explain how congressional behavior is influenced by election processes, partisanship, which means political parties, right? We got 2 major ones, some smaller minor ones, and divided government. We're going to dive in those terms today. We got to lock these terms in because the AP exam will pull these out on you, and you got to know them to win. Let's get it. Introduction. All right, so imagine your group chat planning prom after party. Half the crew wants a bonfire on the beach down by Courthouse Road Pier. Sounds fun, right? Bonfire on the beach after prom, great idea. However, the other half wants to drive to Waffle House at, let's say, 2 a.m. They want some eggs, some bacon, some chocolate chip waffles. Nobody's compromising. Nobody's budging. The chat just dies. That's Congress sometimes, guys. Division so deep nothing moves. Welcome to the world of congressional behavior. We have polarization where the parties will go so far opposite ends, almost like 2 magnets pushing away from each other. And that's where we're currently at in our world of politics today. Democrats and Republicans have gone so far left and so far right. Polarization. Party drama and gerrymandering, divided government, and the different ways reps see themselves when they hit the vote button, right? So we'll discuss 3 models of representation. You have delegate, trustee, and Politico models, and we'll unlock those today. So let's lock in, let's get it, let's go. Segment 1. Make sure we're following these notes, by the way, these active listening notes I gave you guys. Today's notes, I made it pretty simple. Explain it to a 6, 7-year-old, right? Your answers must be simple enough but accurate that a 6, 7-year-old would understand it. And your guiding questions are the questions you'll be answering from section to section. And it follows section by section. It is not out of order. Lock it in. Get these filled out. Let's go. All right. Segment 1. Polarization and gridlock. Polarization and gridlock. 2 very important AP vocab terms. The first stop is polarization. That's when political attitudes move to the far extremes of the political spectrum. The left goes more progressive. They want government to initiate change. They want government to protect things. They want government to immediately step in and change something, right? And then the right, the Republicans, so Democrats are more progressive. And the right, the Republicans, go more conservative. They want things to be less government, more limited government, government to stay out of their lives. They are very much moving and shifting more towards the religious side of things too, right? And in the middle, guess what happens to them? They vanish like Blockbuster. And I know y'all don't know what Blockbuster is, but we used to have to go to a store and rent movies on the weekend. That was Blockbuster. Now we just stream it on Netflix. It is Blockbuster is no longer around. It's almost like the middle child just forgotten by the mom and dad. And so in this world of polarization today, guys, it can be quite difficult to get things passed and compromised on because we're not willing to see the other side of the argument. And I would say social media has contributed quite a bit to this. News sources have gone far left and far right. Social media will show you one side of the argument. Your algorithm, your For You page shows you one side of a topic. You don't get a diverse multi-view perspective. You get one-sided. And they tell you if you don't agree with this one-sided view, you're a traitor to your party, to your people. And social media is extremely dangerous at creating a one-sided polarized view within our country. And we need to find a way to find that middle ground, that sweet, compromising middle ground, all right? Okay, I'm off my soapbox. Let's keep going. Okay, so when Congress polarizes, which they are currently, we get partisan voting. Partisan means voting based off political parties, all right? You don't have any crossover. You either vote Democrat or you vote Republican on bills. You vote the majority party or minority party on bills. So members voting with their party no matter what. Team Red, think Team Red versus Team Blue. Team Elephant versus Team Donkey. Like Ole Miss versus Mississippi State, or if you were at today's Southern Miss president visit, Mississippi State versus Southern Miss this weekend. Nobody's switching sides mid-game. Those two teams will be on their side and they will battle it out to see who wins. There's no compromising, no negotiating, and no switching sides. The result? Gridlock. AP vocab, you got to lock in. Gridlock means traffic jams. Bills stall. Nominations or nominees for the Supreme Court or for ambassadors or for cabinet members, they freeze. The Senate doesn't approve them. The president's waiting to get approval for these nominees. And nothing gets done. Straight up traffic jam. Think Highway 90 on the beach during cruising the coast at 5 p.m. Bumper to bumper. Nobody's moving. Everyone's frustrated. That's pure gridlock. And some would say gridlock's a good thing. It prevents the majority parties or the majority party from dominating the minority parties. Right? Some would say it's good. Some would say divided government's good. Others would say, well, if you're a part of the majority party, you're perfectly fine with no gridlock. Usually it's the minority party who loses out in a unified government. All right, we'll talk more about that in a moment. All right, moving on to segment 2, gerrymandering and representation. And here's where we need to start filling in our notes. Now let's talk maps. Gerrymandering specifically. It's when state legislatures, like our legislator is at the Capitol in Jackson, Mississippi. And right now our state, Mississippi, is dominated by Republicans in our state legislature. It's when state legislatures draw congressional districts. And remember, Mississippi has 4 congressional districts. 4. And we have 3 Republican districts and 1 Democratic district. So it's when state legislatures draw congressional districts to give one party an advantage. And in Mississippi, our state legislature has drawn 4 districts that benefit the Republican Party. And they have given themselves 3 seats or House seats. So imagine you and your friends are splitting a pizza, but one kid cuts it so they all get the pepperoni slices. That's gerrymandering. One kid cutting the slices of pizza where all the pepperoni slices go to one side and the other slices get no pepperoni slices. Courts have stepped in, however, on gerrymandering. In cases like Baker v. Carr, and Shaw v. Reno, 2 required court cases, opened the door for equal protection challenges, saying, hey, districts can't be ridiculously unequal and racially based. Laws must be colorblind, and voting must be one person, one vote. And we're going to dive in that later on in this episode. But even today, redistricting fights happen after every census. Every 10 years, we have a census where we count the population. They send mail to your door, and you fill it out and send it back, and they count us. And who you represent matters. Some representatives have diverse urban districts, like in New Orleans, Louisiana, about an hour, 20 minutes away. Others have sprawling rural ones, like North Mississippi, where it's just a huge area with very little people. Think country towns. The constituency, the voting population, right? Those who are voting, the constituency shapes the behavior patterns of our politicians. So who you represent determines how you'll behave as a representative in Congress. All right, moving on. Segment 3, divided government and partisanship. Divided government and partisanship. All right, so now here's where it gets spicy, guys. Divided government. That's when one party controls the presidency and the other controls at least one chamber of Congress. So, for instance, if President Trump was president, right? He's Republican. And the Senate was dominated by the Republican Party, but our House was dominated by the Democrats. We would have divided government. However, we are not in that situation. We have a Republican president, Donald Trump. The Senate and the House are both dominated by Republican parties, by the Republican Party. So we are unified, not divided. All right. And so what happens in a divided government, though, where you have two parties, one in the presidency and one in at least one house of Congress? Partisanship happens on steroids, guys. Partisanship, meaning two parties not seeing eye to eye, happens on steroids. Presidents propose an initiative. They propose a policy agenda. They are proposing policy, which is the president's power. But Congress blocks them. Presidents nominate a judge for the Supreme Court, or a new cabinet member, or some federal judge in a lower federal court, like district or court or appeals court, or an ambassador. Congress delays or rejects them in a partisan situation. So in a divided government, one party will block the other party's policies or nominations. It's all a game here, guys. It's all a check and balance power between the two political parties in a divided government. And when a president's in their final year, you got to know this, guys. When a president's in their final year with limited time left, that's called lame duck presidency. So a lame duck presidency is when a president no longer can get reelected. They're in their final term as president. And Congress knows they can't get reelected. They don't have any more time to run. They've gone 2 terms. Like Trump this year would have gone 2 terms. So at the last year of his 4-year term limit, he will be a lame duck president if Congress switches to the Democratic Party. And now, why is the lame duck presidency? Why do we need to know this, right? So Congress often stonewalls even harder when they know the clock's running out for the presidency. And they will refuse to accept or approve nominations in the Senate by the president. Maybe a Supreme Court justice steps down or dies or cannot serve. The president will select a nominee for the Supreme Court, and Congress will not approve it. They'll drag their feet. That's what lame duck presidency means. So think about senior prank week. The seniors typically are still in school, but everyone knows their influence is fading. That's a lame duck presidency in Congress's eyes. If that president can't get reelected, why do I need to work with them and compromise? So let's block everything they're trying to do and make their job difficult. All right, moving on. Segment 4, trustee and delegate models. We got to know these 3. So these are the congressional behaviors, why they act and vote the way they do. So here's the question for you. When a representative votes, who are they really answering to? So trustee model, let's look at trustee model, the first one. They trust their own judgment. I trust myself. You elected me, constituency. I trust me to rule for you, to make decisions for you. That's republicanism, right? Okay, so look, it's like this. Maybe if I was elected and I was running a trustee model, I'd say, look, I've got the info. I'll make the call. You elected me. You trust me. Let me make decisions for you. I know it's best. Now, delegate model. This is different. Politicians will act as the mouthpiece for their constituents. So they'd be like, my people back home want this. They want it. So that's how I vote. I vote the way my people back home want it. So my people back home want this one. So that's how I vote. And then political model, right? Model, this is a mix. Sometimes they lead, sometimes they follow, depending on the issue, right? If it's a really super important issue, they're going to be more delegate model and listen to their constituencies on maybe, say, abortion or something along those lines, right? But if it's not so big of an issue, they'll do their trustee model and they'll just listen to their own internal judgment and make those choices for us. So a mixture. All right, so sticky story here. Imagine your friend group voting on where to eat. The trustee says, I know the best taco truck. Trust me, fam. Trust me. It's going to be delicious. And the delegate says, most of y'all want Chick-fil-A, so let's go there. And they're listening. They're listening. And the political model says, I'll roll with whichever option helps me keep y'all happy and gets me a sweet tea. Right? So a little bit of both. And that's how members of Congress think about their roles. And it affects every single vote that goes down. Every single one is affected by these three models of representation. All right, so let's keep going. Segment 5, the human factor. Put it all together. Polarization, gerrymandering, divided gov, trustee, delegate, political roles, right, of politicians. And you see why Congress behaves the way it does. It's not just procedure, guys, it's people. The human factor, right? These folks bring their ideologies, their beliefs, their districts' beliefs, their political party's pressure on them, right? Their ambitions into every single decision. That's why governing effectiveness goes up and down depending on the moment. So here's the bottom line. Congress doesn't just make laws. It's human behavior colliding with structures that our founding fathers made. When you understand the behavior, such as polarization, gridlock, divided gov, lame duck presidents, gerrymandering districts, and role models of representation, you understand why the system sometimes moves and sometimes freezes. All right, segment 6, the power of the pen, guys. So now imagine you go and log into Fortnite. You log into Fortnite, but right before the match starts, someone hacks the map. Your squad jammed into one tiny quarter or corner with no loot. Another squad given the whole map to themselves. That's not fair. And it's not just unfair, that's rigged. And guess what? In Congress, the map really can get rigged. It's called redistricting. And in Texas, right now, they're trying to redistrict to favor the Republican Party, not the Democratic Party. Check that out, that current event out, if you want to know more about this. You can find it online. And today we're breaking down 2 Supreme Court cases that set the rules for the game. Baker v. Carr and Shaw v. Reno, 2 required court cases. Every 10 years after the census, where we count the population, states redraw their congressional districts. Sounds boring, right? But it's like handing out infinity stones, guys. Like Avengers Infinity Stones. Whoever controls the pen can literally control elections for the next 10 years. That's why politicians fight so hard over these maps, or fight harder over these maps than college football fans fight over the Egg Bowl, Mississippi State versus Ole Miss. Right? They fight over tickets for that. And yeah, sometimes these maps, or those maps get sketchy. That's where our 2 cases come in. So AP Gold here, AP Gold. Redistricting means redrawing districts after the census every 10 years, right? And state legislatures do that for us. So whoever's in charge of the legislature in the state, Democrat or Republican, have the advantage here. And then gerrymandering, that means drawing districts to favor one party or group over others. Okay, so gerrymandering is just, it comes from way back when, the 1800s. The state of Massachusetts, the governor there, named Jerry, actually was redrawing districts one year. And in the newspaper, they posted a picture of a salamander or dragon, right? A salamander. And they called it gerrymandering, like salamander and Jerry combined. And they said that this is gerrymandering, redrawing districts to favor one political party. And this actually happened. So true story. Jerry was a governor who redrew lines to favor one party, his party. They called it gerrymandering, salamandering. So that's where it comes from. So write that down in our box here, and let's lock it in and go. All right, so we're getting towards the end. These are our court cases. We got to know these, all right? So segment 7, Baker v. Carr. One person, one vote. And we've talked about this. We've talked about it. 750,000 people per district. This is purely for the House of Representatives. So flashback to Tennessee, just above us, right? The state above Mississippi. 1960s. They hadn't redrawn districts for like 50 years, guys. That's a long time without redrawing districts. They need to do it after each 10 years. So Memphis was exploding in population, but tiny rural areas had the same number of reps as Memphis. Imagine Gulfport and Biloxi growing huge, massive, but some tiny Mississippi Delta towns still got the same political power. It's a scam, guys. You cannot have more people in one district, a lot more than another. It's not one person, one vote. It's not equal. You cannot do that. Got to have equal number of reps per district. So enter Baker v. Carr, 1962. The court ruled for the first time that federal courts can jump in. Federal courts have justiciability, so it's justiciable. Justiciable means the Supreme Court or federal courts have jurisdiction over these redistricting issues. They can look into it and have original jurisdiction in these matters and decide it. Final, right? So the federal courts can jump in and review redistricting cases. Translation, voters could challenge unfair maps in court. They could sue the state to get new redistricting or get districts redrawn. And even more important, the courts laid down the principle, one person, one vote. Every district has to have roughly the same number of people, so your vote is worth the same no matter where you live. That's where the 750,000 people per district comes from. If we have like 330 million Americans, we have 435 seats. If we do 750,000 times 435, that's about 330 million, guys. Makes sense. All right, so sticky line here to remember Baker v. Carr. Baker is why your vote in Gulfport can't be worth less than someone in Yazoo City, Mississippi, up in the Mississippi Delta. All right, let's keep going. Segment 8, Shaw v. Reno, where no weird snake districts. We're going to get into this. It's about gerrymandering, but specifically racial gerrymandering. All right, we're almost done. Now, fast forward to North Carolina, Reno, North Carolina, 1990s. They drew this district, or they drew a district that looked like a giant snake or lizard, literally zigzagging hundreds of miles just to pack, not crack, but pack African-American voters together. The goal? Guarantee minority representation. Sounds great. Comes from the right place. Provide minorities representation. But here's the issue. Shaw v. Reno, 1993. The court said you can't draw districts only based on race. Cannot redraw districts only based on race. That violates the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment, which says, 14th Amendment here, lock it in, we got to know the 14th. Government shall not create a law that oppresses or discriminates against one group based off race, religion, creed, none of that, right? So if you redistrict based off race, it is now no longer colorblind. Law is no longer colorblind, and it is definitely not allowed. And even if it was for the right reasons, guys, you can't do it. Reverse racism is still racism. Like, we can't have laws that are based off color, promoting one group over another, or gender over another, or religion over another. Okay? So that's the 14th Amendment Equal Protection Clause prevented this. So Shaw didn't ban considering race completely. All right, okay, hold on. Whoa. It didn't ban it for considering race completely. It banned crazy snake-shaped districts that were only about race, ethnicity. Okay? So sticky line here, Shaw, no funky snake-shaped racial gerrymandering or gerrymanders, right? We're not saying that districts can't have race involved with it. We just can't have it only based on racial reasons. Does that make sense? I hope it does. We'll talk about it more in class, okay? All right. Number 9, why it matters. These cases aren't history trivia, guys. They decide how democracy works right now at this moment in our lives, why it affects Gen Z, you guys. Think about Mississippi. We have 4 House seats, 4 House districts. Mike Ezell is our District 4 representative. This is his second term in office. He's the incumbent. He's already in office. So his word would he'd be called an incumbent, already elected. And every 10 years, every census, those lines get redrawn and lawsuits often follow. Baker v. Carr means the courts can actually step in and decide if it is illegal. So Baker v. Carr gives the courts justiciable jurisdiction. It allows them to actually look in and see if there's an issue. People can sue and get it handled in court. And then Shaw v. Reno means you can't make race the only factor. Now, can race be a factor? Yeah, sure, yes, but can it be the only factor? No, law is colorblind. Now, can it be a factor? Sure, but not the only factor. And gerrymandering or redistricting mostly deals with partisan gerrymandering. Partisan meaning political party gerrymandering. Can it be done based off Republican and Democrat? Yes, that's legal. And yes, Mississippi, Maryland, and every state does it based off those two parties. Whoever has state legislative power draws better districts for their political party. Okay, so AP Gold Drop, let's get it. Baker v. Carr. So, and guys, this is still alive today. Check Alabama and Mississippi. Check Maryland. Voting right fights today are still happening. Georgia has issues with voting rights. Every districting battle is a Baker-Shaw echo from the past, right? We're still hearing it out. Okay, so AP Gold Drop. Baker, courts can review maps to see if it's legal, if it's one person, one vote, or if it's been done for the gerrymandering for the wrong reasons, right? In Shaw, race cannot be the only sole factor in redrawing districts. It cannot be the sole major factor in redrawing districts. All right, y'all got me? All right, so we're almost done, guys. About to finish it up. I know some of this might be confusing, so in class, we will cover it further, guys, and we'll make sure we clear anything up, any misunderstandings for you guys. But y'all stick with me here, okay? Let's keep going. All right. So, introduction. So here's your Gen Z thought experiment. You're handed the pen. You're the state legislature, right? You're handed the pen. You can redraw Mississippi's 4th district, our district, the lower counties, Hattiesburg down. Do you group people only based on population size? Or do you try and balance racial fairness? Do you leave it up to AI or just pray it's not coded by Elon Musk? And so remember, guys, Baker gave voters power. Shaw set guardrails on how it could be redrawn. And together they remind us lines on a map aren't just lines. They decide votes, voices, and our future. And so this wraps up our congressional mini unit, guys. We got through it. We've covered the structures, lawmaking, behavior, and now redistricting and gerrymandering. So stay bold, stay curious, stay locked on AP Gov. Mr. H out. Peace.